Marc Ruppel from the National Endowment for the Humanities. If you're not familiar with us, we're a taxpayer-funded grant-making agency that funds education, preservation, research, and public engagement with the humanities, or as we define them, fields that have to do with history, literature, philosophy, civics, jurisprudence, just to name a few. We've invested heavily in humanities games and resources over the past decade or so, and many of them have been featured here at the Expo in recent years. Exploring Ancient Cahokia, City of the Sun, for example, led an earlier session and was funded by the NEH, and the Educating for American Democracy project, which you just heard about, was a joint venture between the NEH and the Department of Education. Alongside these efforts, the NEH has funded games like Mission US, which provides students with the opportunity to explore events such as the American Revolution, the Dust Bowl, or the Civil Rights Movement, or Walden a Game, which gives players a chance to step into the well-worn boots of Henry David Thoreau as he chases inspiration and sustenance during the first year at Walden Pond, or iCivics Race to Ratify, which drops you into 1787 when the Constitution was freshly written and players are asked to make a case for either ratifying the document or rejecting it in favor for smaller, more localized governance. Like many other agencies here, the NEH is proud to support projects like this because in doing so, we're supporting educators and students like you and all of the crucial work in the humanities being done across the country. And the wonderful thing about games and projects like these, and the ones that you heard about, isn't that they present some static version of history and culture, but that instead they offer us something far more useful. A sense of the extraordinary messiness of the historical and cultural record, the richness and possibilities and frailties of our democracy, and an opportunity to explore the places, people, events, expressions, and actions that make up who we are. These are the critical literacies that social studies offers. The ability to think through and engage sometimes contradictory sources, to be comfortable working in indeterminacies and not always seek certainty, and to welcome informed debate. And in many ways, the lack of these skills is precisely the challenge of our time that we must rise to meet. And supporting innovation in social studies could not be more urgent as a result. And so here we sit, talking about virtual worlds at a virtual conference during a time of virtual learning, but the thinking these games foster is anything but artifice. We don't need to go far to see the evidence of this here. Social studies and humanities games featured at the Expo provide a profound range of experiences for players. Players can become actors with agency in richly detailed historical environments to see how people chose to live in the past and to think about how this can inform how we live in the present. They can engage with primary sources in the context they once existed in, or they can explore what it means to create and interpret games about their own living cultures, or they can simply do the important task of bearing witness to a person, to a place, to a historical event. I know I'm preaching to the choir here about the efficacy of games in the classroom because the real problem, as I hear from so many of you across the country, isn't one of the availability of these resources, but rather findability. And it's difficult, we know it is, to know where to look to find resources of this sort. And this is, to my eyes, one of the biggest benefits of the Ed Games Expo. It provides a showcase for paradigm-shifting innovations in educational technology developed through programs across the federal government, creating a platform that helps these games find their way into the hands of those who would know how to use them best. That the Expo's been doing this since 2013, almost a decade now, as an in-person event in Washington, D.C. is, to my eyes, remarkable. Over that time, thousands and thousands of attendees have walked around the expo hall trying out new learning games and technologies while meeting face-to-face with developers where they can ask questions and find out how they created them. This year was obviously much different, and we know all too well what we've lost both outside of the classroom and within it. But if there's a small silver lining with the expo, at least, these virtual events went far beyond Washington, D.C. and reached a national and international audience of educators and students. We're a community, after all, and we can sometimes practice as one. Importantly, the expo also has a long life outside of the event itself, as all EdTech resources and sessions will be archived online for additional viewing. Please check the Ed Games Expo website for more information on this. On behalf of everyone involved with the Expo, I want to close these proceedings with a big thank you to the more than 100 teams of researchers and developers who participated this year. It's your work that makes this event possible. And thanks as well to the more than 20 government agencies and offices and their partners for planning so many great virtual events like the one we just had here today. And finally, thanks to all the educators and students and everyone else watching. The games and resources highlighted here are only tools that support the vital work you are all doing across the country and beyond. So enjoy the summer, everyone, and we will see you again at the Expo next year, but hopefully this time in person. Take care. See you soon. Marc Ruppel from the National Endowment for the Humanities. If you're not familiar with us,
Thanks, Mark, for his pre-recorded message, and I'd like to hear him talk about civics being a priority of the humanities. I do not have my camera back on because I'm having bandwidth problems and didn't want to freeze during the last minute or two of the conference. So we just want to thank all of you again for coming. Thank all of the presenters who are here, and want to remind you that if you would like to request a PD certificate, to make sure you send an email either to Bono, B-O-N-O, at iu.edu or at eosborne at iu.edu. It might take us a little bit because this is a big giant recording to chop up into pieces, but we are going to chop the recording for both the Zoom A room and the Zoom B room, and we will have posted on our website the links to each of the individual recordings. And we will also have, as presenters have shared them with us, we will also put their presentations up there as well. And the Social Studies Innovation Network should hook back to our website as well. And if you can't find what you're looking for, please just reach out to us. Any of the presenters, I think I can speak on their behalf, members of the network are eager to speak with you and your ideas, because the goal of all of our work is to help you in your classroom reach your students in a way that is meaningful and relevant to them, and that makes them want to be informed and engaged citizens. So thank you, and please enjoy the rest of your weekend.